Welcome, Chris Evans Radio. We are back with little Dave, and he is 19 days out from USA's.
Getting close.
Yes. As the face wrinkles continue to get deeper and deeper, that's how we know we're in a good spot. Because what, you were 215.6 this morning?
216.6.
How in the fuck did I fuck that up? All right. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Unless I typed it wrong. I definitely was tired this morning.
No, I'm sure I just thought the 5 was a 6 when I
Yeah.
played that back in my memory. But I mean, yeah, you're getting better by the week, and it's food is still high 2 days a week, and it's low 5 days a week. So low for most.
Yeah.
Low for you, I guess. Better is probably the better way to say that. But luckily, 2 cardio is only 30 minutes, 5 days a week, so that's not horrible. And you continue to progress off of that. So, like, I'm excited to get to California and see how it looks, and on stage and all tanned and oiled and shaved and shit. So it'll be good.
Yeah. It's funny. I've been using that Delta, the app that has a countdown for when your flight leaves. I've kind of been using that as my
Yeah.
But it's wild because we're way closer than 19. Because it's like, what is that? I think it's 15 days before, no, it's 14 days before we fly out.
Yes.
So
yeah.
It's always kind of funny.
Yeah, because we get there Tuesday, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And you'll love that area too. It's nice.
Yeah, I'm excited for it.
Yeah. Luckily, I know my way around that hotel and shit. So
yeah, you've been there a couple times.
Yeah. And then I obviously know where the good gyms are. So know where Trader Joe's is. We're set. There's nothing else to stress about.
Yeah, no joke.
All the important stuff for you and I.
Right. Where's my food and where are the weights at? Where's that?
Right. Yeah. So, no, I'm looking forward to that as always, and so I know it relieves so much stress from you because you aren't sending me 47 photos a day. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it makes it a million times easier.
Yeah. I think that's like one of the bigger things of contest prep, if you can eliminate like the photos and making sure like the lighting is good and you're hit send and they're all attached, like all that stuff, just one less thing to think about. You jump on the scale, put your trunks on, we pose in normal light, and it's good. So
yeah,
it'll be. And honestly, you know what's cool too is I haven't looked at any pre-USA like predictions. I'm sure as it gets a little closer, they'll start popping up on my feeds and stuff, but I haven't personally sought any of them out. So
yeah.
As I've said 100 times, like bodybuilding is there's no defense. So I bring it to your best and let the judges do their job. And
yeah, exactly.
Where you place is 100% out of your and our hands if we do all the right shit.
Yeah.
If I peek you and you pose right, there's nothing else we can do. Like,
yeah, very true.
Yeah. You know, I was talking to that before we started here. Like, Aaron placed second yesterday at Universe, and man, as I told you, it's like I could not have peaked him better. Kenny said his posing was flawless, and we placed second. And it's like, okay, cool. We have 12 days to refine and get better. And you know what's really interesting about that is I never know from a coach perspective, like when it's a close loss or let's say you get your breaks beat off of you, like how the client is going to respond. Like,
yeah,
I know how you and I would respond to that, but you know, not everyone is like you and I. Like, we're like, fuck it, you just get pissed off, or maybe you just get motivated to like, okay, cool, like I have to get better. Where I think sometimes people really struggle with that because it's like they're getting kicked in the face, they don't know what it feels like.
Yeah, very true.
Where you and I are like, man, this is new territory. I know it's like you kicked in.
Pretty used to that feeling.
You and I win, and we're like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
What do we do now? Somebody tell me I'm bad, damn it.
Right.
So you like need it. I'm like, Angela, tell me how shitty my back is again, real fast. Okay, cool. We're good.
Right.
So, you know, it's one of those things where I think the athlete mindset can be a positive or a negative in that situation. And you know, last night he didn't know what he wanted to do, and I passed out at 9 o'clock because I was up with him at 4:30.
Yeah.
And I woke up to a text message that said, "Fuck it, Masters Nationals 12 day, let's get this shit." And I was like, yes. You know, a lot
It's
of
a good
times
choice.
I found too, like once guys who are really hyper motivated, like just get a little bit of food in them in terms of bad food, and they're like, it gets that engine just fucking revving to crank again. So
Yeah.
I'm excited. And again, it's one of those things where when he sent me the photos, like I knew it was going to come down to a coin flip of the judges. And I know him and Kenny believed it was a slam dunk. And that always worries me because it's judging, it's subjective, right? So
Yeah.
we knew he was going to be first or second. And I try to just like be calm and chill. I'm like, listen, it's going to happen when it's going to happen. And the good news is we talked this morning and he was like, man, he's like, I think we can get better. And I was like, fuck yeah, we can. So on to that, back to that suffer train.
Yeah.
So that's to me the mindset of a champion or someone who loves this is they're excited. Like he already trained legs today. He's already done his cardio. So it's like to me, like that's bodybuilding,
Oh,
not the show and posing. And I know some people might argue that, but bodybuilding is a
yeah.
training meeting.
Yeah. Very true. Very true.
And I think that when people hear me say that, they're like, "Oh, do you actually like bodybuilding?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I think you just like the fucking fancy posing shit and the attention. Where I actually like the sport of bodybuilding, which is training, getting big, or getting all the fat off. It's, that to me is like what bodybuilding is like, and I can appreciate like beautiful posers and people who put a lot of time and effort into their posing routines, but that's just not what I'm into. Like,
Yeah.
I want to perfect my mandatories so that when I hit shots, they look crazy. But I'm not in about that like flowing and dancing and popping my hips. Like that's just not me.
Yeah. That's same. Never has been for sure.
No, it's not. Yeah, I'm not a dancer. Can I appreciate like a Kai Green posing routine? Yeah, I definitely can. Like that's cool as shit. But
Yeah.
you will not come to a show and watch me doing that. I My very first show prep is the only time I've ever practiced and planned a posing routine. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm with you on that.
I mean, because what's sad, right, is I hear a lot of guys say, like, oh, like, you didn't put any time in your posing routine. I'm like, when you're up on stage in your posing routine, hear what the judges are doing. They aren't watching.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not judged on it.
No, no, why would you waste all that time, effort, and energy on a posing routine? Because I've had guys that and girls be like, Chris, I nailed my posing routine. I'm like, cool, it's not judged.
Yeah. 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 Or
And a
the
lot of times,
side of things
go
is
ahead.
like people, I swear to God, it's like one of those things people like they'll start skipping gym sessions to practice their posing. They're
Correct.
like, oh, I have to leave at 7. I'm gonna cut out my RDLs out of the back day so I have time to pose.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, that's a fucking decision.
Like,
Like,
yeah.
you know, hmm,
Right.
like how does that work? Don't you need muscle to do this pose? You know, no one
It's
wants to see a string being up there posing.
no.
You
I've
know,
seen guys and girls skip PM sessions of cardio and count that as like posing practice as cardio. And I'm like, no, you still have fat on your ass. Like,
yeah,
like stop. You need the cardio. I promise. Like, and I've always correlated like the people who put that much time and effort and energy into their posing and are so obsessed with it, they don't have that same level of dedication to their training and nutrition, and their physique shows it.
yeah,
Because every show I go to, it's inevitable that you see someone up there, man or woman, give a really great posing routine and they aren't in shape. And I'm like, man, you need to flip that shit. Like all the time you put into that perfectly synchronized bicep flex to the beat of the music, if you put that level of attention to detail to measuring your fucking olive oil and rice, I bet the outcome will be better.
oh,
Right? But that's a hard concept to explain to those people because they don't see it that way, I don't think.
yeah,
Where I know like my thought process is always like, if I can be the best on stage and do my mandatories well, my outcome will always be better. The posing routine is absolutely irrelevant. Like,
yeah,
but yeah, teach learn, I guess. If you have enough energy to practice a posing routine when your fat's all gone, by all means, like that's when the true art, like when you get to watch, say, someone like Terrence Ruffin do a posing routine, and you're like, okay, he is fat free and he can do all that. That's truly impressive.
Actually, women's fitness, I
Mhm.
think, is the most impressive thing on the planet.
Agreed.
Those girls are over there doing backflips, and then they're 7 shades of depleted. Like Misty Truscott is like wild.
Yep.
Like just looking at her training routine for like all of her shit, like like she has her training and then she has her like routine training,
Yep.
and they're two separate things.
Yep.
And it's just like she has to recover from both of them. Obviously, it's programmed in. She's
Yep.
not just sporadically doing it, but that shit is so impressive.
That was one of the coolest things that I ever got to see laid on paper is the first season that John trained her for the Olympia. He showed me what her training, sorry, her cardio, her training, and then her event, so to speak, training looked like. And how that was all laid out and programmed for her was wild. Cause I'd never, I still have never worked with a really high level fitness lady ever. I've had some lower level, like local competitors, but never at the Olympia level or even national level. And it's insane to me to see that acclimation of the body, but then also the distribution of energy over those three systems. It's cool.
Yeah, it is
So,
really cool.
yeah. Again, I'm not by no means an expert in it, but I would gladly welcome to learn that shit all day long. So he
Yeah,
showed me what he did with her, and it was definitely outside of the box. It was, if my memory is right, they did push pull legs, and so she just trained 3 days a week, and then it was 3 days a week of the fitness routine stuff, and then it was cardio was like I would give anyone 5 to 6 days a week.
yeah,
Pretty cool shit.
yeah.
Because people don't think take into consideration like elbows, knees, hips, shoulder, the level of wear down you get on those to then to try to pile training on top of that is insane.
Yeah, you can't be. Yeah, it's that's like the best concept with us is like training, right? Is there's this cup is what we can recover from.
Right.
If I fill this all the way up with just training volume,
Yeah.
how am I going to recover from training from the fitness stuff?
Right.
I don't have more. I don't have a bigger fucking cup.
Correct.
Like you have to manage. That's that. One of the most underlying factors of bodybuilding is managing your fatigue here.
Yeah.
In that cup, and that's like you can overflow a little bit for sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you're constantly overflowing, that's where you're going to run into issues and your body won't progress.
No, no, I didn't. No. That's something I always have a hard time explaining to young athletes when I work with them is like you only have so much room on your plate to manage everything. So if you take like a wrestler like Ty, right? Like, so he has to weight train to get stronger. He has to have mat time. He has to have like his flexibility, gymnastics training, and then they have to run a lot. So it's like
Yeah.
those, and then that's like, oh, then he has to take school on top of that in
Yeah.
consideration, and then how much he has to walk to get to classes and places. So it's like if you look at all of that and how much it would destroy his body in terms of like just the wrestling, and then you're like, oh, cool. Like now, not only do I have to like power clean, deadlift, squat, front squat, bench press, for example, like that's a lot of wear and tear. And it's like, oh, by the way, now we have to do all the stretching and mobility work. And then, oh, we're going to make you run miles on the track. Yeah. Fuck.
Yeah. It's actually funny. It's one of those. You probably get this a good amount when people come to you and they'll tell you I'll do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, will you take another rest day? And they're like, I can't do that.
No, no.
They're like, I can take any drug you tell me to take. I'll take anything, but manage my recovery better. I can't do that.
No, it's too hard. It's always those memes that are like rest day. What body part is that? And I'm like, here,
Yeah.
this is the rest day muscle. And it requires much more mental fortitude than to go blast your arms full of blood. Because
Yeah.
you and I would do that all the day. Like, oh, I can go train arms. Hell yeah, fuck yeah, sign me up.
Yeah. If I could figure out a way to train 20 times a week, I would do it.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
That's my favorite part of the day. If I could do it 2 or 3 times a day, I would fucking be in heaven.
Yeah.
I can't. Not the way I want to train. I could probably go in and do like a movement 3 times a day, but that would be boring as shit.
Right.
You know, I'm not gonna go drive to the gym just to incline barbell
No.
and then go home.
Yeah. Agreed. All right. So I had some thoughts for us to talk about, but first let's do this here. You and I had a really good conversation that I thought we should share on here before I hit record. And we were actually specifically talking about arm training, but it applies across the board to all training. And the premise of our conversation started with this, like, there's levels of training in terms of advancement. And I think sadly, a lot of times what we see on the internet, what we see preached on Instagram and YouTube, are all these like really fancy, hyper isolated movements that the bad thing is these young, unexperienced guys and girls, and it's not, I'm talking about from a training age, not an actual age, take these movements in and they see these guys with monstrous arms, for example, and like, oh, he has 23-inch arms and he's doing a cross-body cable extension, one arm at a time with 30 pounds in the weight stack. That's what I got to do. And I'll let you start because you kind of started on that route. Like, when you see that, what do you think initially?
Oh my goodness. Well, most of the times it drives me to like, if you have muscle on you, go ahead and do some things like that.
Mhm.
But like, it honestly comes down to what tool you want to use for building your muscle. Like, if you're building a house or tearing down a wall, like, you could grab a sledgehammer or you could grab a fucking stapler, right? Which one's going to put a hole in the wall faster?
Right,
You
right,
could probably make a pretty good hole in the wall with a stapler.
right,
It's going to be a ton of effort and it's not going to go fast.
right.
But it's the same thing with those things. It's like we guys are jumping over the dollars to pick up pennies. Like,
Yep.
it's such a simple concept. Like, oh, your triceps aren't growing. It's like, okay, why are we doing single arm push downs with,
Right,
your fucking wrist strap?
right,
Because you see someone else doing that. Hunter Labrada loves his prime thing there, but like, if you can't do that with the V bar,
right,
if you why not start with the V bar and get good at that? Or hell, if you can't do the V bar, do a body weight dip,
right. Yep.
right? And if you can't do a body weight dip, go find the assist machine and figure that out and progress that way. If you can't do body weight, do half your body weight and then get to your full body weight, and then get to the point where you have weight on you, and then you have a lot of weight on you. I promise, when you get to that V bar push down,
Yep.
you'll be doing a lot more than 20 pounds on it.
Agreed. Yes. I told you the very first guy that taught me bodybuilding had enormous arms. And he told me the secret to his triceps, and it was this. He said, you get that V bar and you put it on the cable station and you try to get as close to the bottom as you can with 10 plus reps. Then he's like, next, I need you to go to the barbell skull crusher, not a fucking dumbbells, not an easy bar, the barbell skull crusher. He said, I need you to do the reps until you can't get your wrist away from your front delt. He's like, I don't care how many sets it takes, do that. And then he's like, on that same bench, flip around and you get to the point where you can do 315 on the close grip bench press for 10 reps. After all of that shit, you do that, your arms won't be small. And I said, yes, sir. It was that simple. It was one cable and one barbell on a bench. That was it. And I
Yeah.
watched that dude roll the stack for sets of 20, then go over and do skull crushers with 225, and then flip around and throw around 315 on the close grip like it was paper. And I was like, all right, cool. Like, for some reason in today's time, like, people don't see that. They would probably see that exact same guy at the same time, but 2 decades ago, and think, oh, juice to the gills. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's an idiot. I need to go over there and get, again, like you said, get the cuffs out and do 30-pound extensions until my triceps are burning. That math doesn't work for me.
No. No. And there's nothing wrong with those tricep extensions, just the time and place.
Yes.
Like, Hunter Labrada does them all the time, but go pay attention. He also bench presses 400 plus pounds. Yeah.
I guarantee
like,
he also wasn't starting his bodybuilding out with that.
No, that's after the fact.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's a different tool. There's a time and a place for a sledgehammer.
Yeah.
And you're going to use that a good amount. But there's also a time and a place for, uh, drywall putty.
Yes. Yep.
You know?
I think, and you made this point, you said, you and I could go back to those basics and still get great sessions off of. And I really
Yeah,
believe in my heart that when they locked the country or world down, however you want to say that, it taught so many of us to just go back to our roots of bodybuilding and say, hey,
yeah,
we don't have all this fancy access to equipment anymore. How can we make the bare basics work again? And guess what? It worked really well.
yeah,
And I'm only going to say this next point because I know people have commented to me in the past that, Chris, I've done what you guys said, and it didn't work for me. Two things: you didn't do it long enough, or you're eating like a child.
yeah,
Because if you do any of the things you and I just talked about, say for tricep growth, for example, it will work if you give it enough time. The problem
yeah,
is you're so quick to like, oh man, like I got to 315 for 10 where Chris said that was the key, and my arms are still 19 and a half. Yeah, but what does that 315 for 10 look like? Is it
yeah. Well, also when you got up there, what were they before?
yes.
If you went from 17 to 19, like Jesus fuck, that's amazing. Yeah,
Correct.
your arms might still be technically small or whatever, but it's like, did you have a progression?
Right.
Like, oh yeah, I'm not a freak. Okay, cool. Let's keep working at it. But did it work? Like, you obviously made changes.
Right. Yeah. Because to me, my next logical thought was, okay, cool. If someone gave me that advice, let's say I'm doing the stack for 20 on push down, I'm going to get a gym pin. Easy, gym pin, done. Okay, now I can get more than the stack. Okay, cool. He said 225 on skull crushers. I don't think many of you guys out there are doing that. I'm sorry, I just don't believe it. But then like say 315
Yeah,
on flat on close grip bench press. Get it to 4 plates, bro. Get it to 4 plates. And then remeasure those arms. So you went 17 to 19 and a half. Now you're 21 and a half. That's the right direction.
yeah,
Yeah. And that may take that little progression that we lay there, it might take 3 to 5 years.
yeah,
3 to 5 years, not months, not months. Like, yeah, that's our daily advice for you guys. Like the cute exercises, I agree, do have a place in if you're a certain level of advancement or if you need to connect to the tricep. Because I will say this: if I have a young guy who can't feel his triceps work, by all means, get the cuff out. But as I said to you, I'm not counting that as work set. That's literally
yeah.
just activating your triceps to now go do the stuff that's going to put the meat on them.
Hmm.
And that is lost, I think, a lot of times because they don't think about exercises in terms of like growth, right? Like I think what John always taught me with a muscle is like you activate, you pump it, you do a power movement to build mass, you get a huge ass pump, and then you stretch it. So those 5 keys of every workout. And not all 5 of those are always going to be true hypertrophy. That's not may not be the purpose in the moment. Like if like for example, if I'm going to do a leg day and my first quad exercise is going to be a leg extension, I don't view that as a mass builder, even though it may improve my legs. I view that as I'm turning my legs on so that when I get to the leg press or hack squat or pendulum or true squat, that's where the growth is going to take place.
Hmm.
And again, I know that may sound funny to some. Like I've always saw those like activation or primer exercises. It's like I don't care if the leg extension doesn't give me pounds of muscle on my legs, like, but it will get them ready to do an exercise that will.
Yeah,
Maybe some deeper like psychology in terms of training or my thought process philosophies.
yeah.
I
Well,
mean, I
that's
think
another reason why you see people not progress with legs too, is like they put so much emphasis into leg extensions and they don't give a shit about the other stuff.
right. Yeah.
And it's obviously apparent.
Yes.
Like, oh, my legs won't grow. It's like, well, that's because you did the 3 hard sets you did were all leg extensions.
Yes. I will always go back to the heaviest stack of a leg extension that I've ever done is like I think 250.
Yeah,
That's not even a warm up set of leg press. Like,
yeah,
do the math there. It's pretty simple. I mean, even if you put us on a one leg press, 250 is probably still going to not even barely be a warm up. Like
yeah.
that's one leg. So
Very true.
food for thought there. Like when you're choosing exercises, based upon how much muscle you have, like that plays a factor. And I think a lot of times people are so fast to want to get away from the basics. And I don't know if it's because they're hard, but it's because they're just not sexy enough. Like, oh
Mhm.
God, like I haven't seen a barbell deadlift on Instagram in 3 days, but I've seen a banded fucking machine done exhaustion. Right. So
Yeah.
just please God think about that.
Yeah.
And I think too, like as much as a band, let's say a cuffed skull, like a cuffed tricep extension may feel good to the muscle, when I get off of it, my triceps don't feel like the skin's gonna burst. But
No.
if I take a dip machine to the end on a rest pulse set, my triceps don't feel like they could get any bigger in that moment. And that's the difference. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah,
Very true.
it's hard to rationalize that. Like, even if you take a single arm exercise, like let's say we're doing kettlebell incline skull crushers, like think about how much more weight you use per arm and how much more you have to control that load so you don't literally let your elbow or shoulder blow off the bone in comparison to that cuff extension. Like,
Oh,
again, just some food for thought there, guys. Like, what does the tricep feel like after you do a, say, pick up the 50 on a dumbbell skull crusher and do it for 15? What does that feel like versus a cuff extension? There's a difference. It doesn't feel the same. So, yeah, I think we've beat that into the ground enough. Do the hard shit.
yep. Hmm.
All right, so
Very true.
I had some thoughts that like I kind of just jotted down in my notes when I was riding around in the car. My brain was like hyper focused.
Yeah.
So well, the first one I have here is, is this is a kind of a this is a peak week prep question that I've always wondered in my brain, right? And I think it'll spur some good conversation. So, what I wrote in my notes here, I said, if a person is ready, do you increase the food and leave exercise the same, or do you like to pull back on exercise and keep food the same? So, two different philosophies. So, the person's in shape and they've had a good prep at the end, meaning last 5 to 10 days potentially. What would be the reason that you would increase food but leave activity the same, as opposed to the other side of that would be pull back exercise but leave food the same?
Depends on how fatigued they are.
Exactly. Yes, that's what I was hoping you were going to say. Yep.
In all reality, if they're, if they get to that last week and they've been floored for, the last 5 weeks, and they're just, they're going to be watery, a little bit inflamed. It's like, it's going to be a lot easier to pull back and recover more
Yes.
and maybe not have as much food.
Yes.
Because you have to also remember, like, added food's also a stress.
Correct.
So if you keep
Yes.
everything else the same and you just add more food, like, you're technically adding more stress,
Right.
but you're also helping your recovery with the more food. But it versus, it depends on how long you've been floored for.
Yes.
So, if the last 2 weeks of prep have been like, okay, we could probably just add food. But if it's, the last like 6, you've been really pushing it, yeah, let's pull back on everything, while increasing food a little bit.
That's something that I don't think enough people talk about or address at the end. It goes back to something you and I beat on a lot, which is don't have cookie cutter prep protocols,
Hmm.
because each honestly multiple shows in a prep the answer there could be different for the same person, right? Like,
Yeah.
let's say I had to ram the gas to get you in shape for show one. I would probably choose less cardio, less volume in the gym, and leave food around the same. I would probably still bump it up a touch to give you some more pump, feeling better, give you the psychological effects of the added food. But it wouldn't be to the point where if I kept all of the exercise in and said, hey, like, let's really get after these pump sessions, I would need to feed those pump sessions, right? Like, I have to. And I think what people don't understand is within that, if you're going to make people continue to exercise and exercise moderately to hard, you have to fuel those sessions, or you're going to continue to drive the body into the ground. And if you're already in shape, you don't need that. Like, so it's that seesaw effect that I really encourage the coaches out there, or if you're self-coaching, like you really need to consider that. Like it isn't a matter of what you want to do more, because I think most of the people who are highly motivated want to get in the gym and train and look crazy, right? Like, so like, oh, Chris, like for sure, give me more food and give me more work.
Yeah.
Where a lot of times, what I always think is what you said is like, what is your body's inflammation level like? And if it's high because I've had to do double session cardio and I've had to really drive your food in the toilet, more exercise actually would not be a good thing. Where if I had you just rest, prop your feet up on the couch and chill, your body would come to life and you would dry out and be hard and crispy.
Yeah.
So that equation there, it's a judgment call. And that's why I will always tell you and anyone that bodybuilding coaching is an art. It's not, there's no rules.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think something else too that plays a factor into that is your midsection control. Because if you're one of those guys or girls who can't hold your stomach in and I'm pounding you full of food so that you can train, it's not a good thing. I want food lower so that your stomach's sucked and glued to your spine. So the resting there may be the option or the best option.
Or you even have to play it a different way. Like you may have to feed them, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then pull back Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Exactly.
You're like, oh, but you don't have to dip them into a hole. Just pull back on food.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, cool, you're full. You're not bloated.
Right.
We look good. Versus like so many people do that fucking with peak week. They're like, all right, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is going to be low food.
Yep.
And then Friday we'll just load you full of food and then possibly take a diuretic and then have pancakes on Saturday morning.
Yep.
Because the diazide flattened you out.
Right. And you can't forget, you got to have those burger and fries between morning and night show.
Yeah.
You have to, literally. Oh, yes. Yeah. And again, that goes back to my original point of stop having these peak protocols that are already set in stone. Like,
yeah,
stop it. And every person I try to take through the end who's in shape, and listen, the biggest thing here that I want people to take away is if you're in shape. Because if you aren't in shape, the answer is not. This topic is absolutely irrelevant to you. Like,
the answer is find a different show at a later time frame and get in shape.
Correct. And if your coach is good and your heart's set on the show, you're going to have to gas it to the end. Like,
yeah,
because that's going to be the best opportunity for you to look the best on stage. And I've seen some guys pull that off. I've had clients have to do that. It's not fun. They are exhausted. Their bodies are beat to shit. It is not ideal. Like it is. That is.
Yeah, and I've seen it too, where their bodies just starts fighting it.
Yeah. Right. Yep.
Especially females are notorious for this. Like you drop their food, you're up their cardio, increase training volume. Like their body just comes to a screeching halt.
Yeah.
They have so much of a stress response. You usually start getting like PCOS symptoms because you get that cortisol response. And it's like, oh, actually, we're fucking going backwards now. And it's like, all right, well, what options do we have?
Yeah. But to me, the option there is pick a later show or back out of prep. Like,
yeah,
because we have.
Yeah, because the only thing you can do to fix that is pull back.
Yes.
Like you can't push the gas further.
No.
And if you pull back, you're not going to be progressing to the degree you want to.
No.
So it's like, all right, cool. We're going to have to pick a different show, pull back, and fix these issues.
Yep. I think so many people that leads into a topic you and I've talked before about like how all season to contest to rebound to all season like is all cyclical. So if you're constantly building your metabolism, this tends to never be an issue because I'm going to continue to build your calories north in the all season. So they're higher at the end of a prep. So if we have to do a load of cardio or we have to pull your food down aggressively, it's still not to the point where it's detrimental. Like,
yeah,
where you're looking at 700 to 800 calorie days, like it's not fun for anyone.
No.
And the body's not thriving there. It's literally surviving. And I know a lot of times like that's the only way some people say they can get in shape, but I always find those people tend to be fatter in the off seasons and don't take it as serious. And there's your answer.
It always makes me laugh. Like I think that's probably one of those mental things that people would do. Like I just noticed, like it makes me laugh. Like people in prep will be posting like all that food porn shit. Like these are cupcakes, donuts, brownies. It's like in the off season, how often are you actually eating this?
Right. Right.
Right. And is that why your prep is so difficult?
Yes.
Like,
Agreed.
there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with food.
Mm-mm.
But if you're, constantly eating cupcakes, donuts, and cookies in your fucking off season, and then wondering why your prep is difficult,
Right.
it's like you're slightly stupid.
Yep. Well, yep.
Oh, you got fatter than you needed to be, so you have to lose it. Every time you eat one of those cookies, you have to take it off.
Yes.
You know, you know, and it's like, all right, there's nothing wrong with that, but then having a prep where you're like, oh, I had to suffer. It's like I had to eat 600 calories. It's like, well, you didn't have to.
Yes.
Just like you didn't have to have all of those cookies.
It goes back to that old adage, right? You're going to pay the piper now or later.
Yeah,
You have to pick when. And I guess I've always thought, like, for me and in the all season, like, if I'm smashing my food, meaning eating every gram of it, 9 times out of 10, one, maybe 2 times a week, I would like to have something that is off the plan. But a lot of times I just want my normal diet food, bro. Like, it's,
yeah,
and then in a prep scenario, my brain is so laser focused on the end result that food tends to not even be an issue. And I think that's why I thrive better on no free meals in a prep, because when you don't taste it, you forget it. Like,
yeah,
and I listen, I've been guilty, as I've shared with everyone. Like, in the past, I've probably watched and followed too many food things and collected food and all those stupid habits that a lot of competitors make. I've made those same mistakes at a much younger age and realized that was all pointless.
yeah.
It never tastes as good as you envision, and it does nothing but put you in a fucked up headspace.
Very true.
Like, the guys and girls who can focus on, hey, like, my next job is nailing this meal. My next job is training my face off. The next job is cardio the best of my ability. It's really hard to focus on the newest Dunkin' Donuts flavor. Like,
Yeah,
it, it becomes irrelevant. It's like,
it's one of those things. It's like Costco muffins are always on sale. It's $7 for fucking 12 muffins.
yeah.
Like if you want them, you can go buy them right now.
Yes. Yeah.
It's going to change that. Like it's not making you a better or worse person. It's going to make you a better or worse bodybuilder for sure. But
Well, yeah.
like that's up to you on that. But I mean, you only get one chance to do what like a show,
Yeah.
and every variable you do, like just missing sleep's gonna change your look.
Yes.
So binge eating fucking muffins, I mean, that will change some variables.
Yes. And fuck your digestion.
Yeah,
I don't care how much insulin you shoot with it. It's gonna fuck your stomach.
yeah,
All right. So yeah, just to kind of wrap that topic up, like, I think that's something when you're looking at the person, a lot of times too, you need to kind of play into their psychological state, right? If you know there's someone who does a little bit better with movement, give them some movement,
yeah,
but then reinforce the fact, hey, I'm going to feed you into the movement, and then I need you to chill afterwards. Can you do that for me?
yeah,
Yes. Okay. Great. We're on the same page. Because a lot of times, if you take someone who is high anxiety, high stress, high mover, and you make them sit around, it causes them more stress and anxiety than if I just gave them like an arm day that was like 6 sets of biceps, 6 sets of triceps, 2 sets of abs, pose, and then go home. That that whole process is going to relieve them psychologically. So I think that also plays a factor into it, is like knowing the client and how their body best looks and responds.
yeah,
But notice I didn't say do a 28 set arm day with tons of intensifiers, because that also is not the answer.
yeah,
So yeah, I think that's about it. Like, just got to be smart. You have to program intelligently, program for the individual. You do that 9 times out of 10, the look is always favorable. And I've had guys where they've been in the gym like, Chris, this workout feels terrible. Go home. But no, go home before something bad happens.
yeah, yeah. You're not gonna keep beating a dead horse.
No, no. Pump's getting worse. What do I do? Do I drink? No, go home. That's the answer. Like,
Yeah.
shut it down.
And honestly, it comes to being instinctual with that shit too. Like, if the paper says 6 sets of bicep curls, and you do 3, you have an awesome pump, and you do the 4th one, the pump goes down. Why the hell are you going to do 5 and 6
Agreed.
if the pump's just going to continue to get worse?
Right.
That's where you write that down, tell your coach.
Yes. Yeah.
Be like, and just get out of there.
Mm.
Like, you're not going to get more benefit from just exactly that, beating a dead horse. Like, you're just causing unnecessary fatigue, what your body has to recover from. And it has to recover from that fatigue first before it can build muscle tissue.
Yep.
So if your body's just recovering from fatigue and you don't allow it to actually build muscle tissue, like, good luck growing in the off season for one, or good luck getting lean.
It's interesting because I think I've had people say to me like, I should have stopped at 3, but you wrote 6, and I wanted to make you happy. I didn't want you to think I failed or cheated. And I'm like, I'd have been more proud if you listened to your body there. Like,
Yeah.
there's
Well, it's one of those things too. It's like you got to listen to your body, but also verify with someone who also knows.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like there's times where it's like, all right, my legs are fucking dead. You know this. We're like, all right, let's do less cardio. But it's not like, you know what I mean? It's like I'm not just gonna be like, I didn't do cardio today because my legs are dead. It's like, oh, we're gonna verify this for sure.
I think that is also really hard because we say that we come from a place of 2 guys who will go above and beyond to ensure things happen right. Where I think on the other side of that coin is the people who want to do the less because it's easier. And it's like, how do you tell someone who doesn't want the hard section of life to listen to their body, because their body and brain's always going to tell them to quit?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, in that case, you might just have to show them what that means.
Yes.
Because
Agreed.
I mean, there's 2 different aspects. I mean, with you coaching me, I know for a fact you tell me to take my foot off the gas more than you tell me to push it.
Yes. Agreed.
So there's plenty of clients where that's your goal, is you're going to tell them to take the foot off the gas. So I know how to use my foot. I need to know how to use the gas pedal.
Right.
Some people have no idea where their fucking foot is on that gas pedal.
Yeah.
You have to show them how to use the gas pedal.
Yes.
And in that case, honestly, you probably don't have to worry too much about doing too much because
Right.
they're already limiting on how much they're doing.
With you specifically, I always just know the gas pedal's floored until I tell you to take it off. And that's why it's easy to manage. If I say I need you to do 2 sets of hack squat as if your life depended on it, I don't need to have that last section of the sentence because I already know that it does. Like,
Yeah.
I need you to do 2 sets of hack squat. And what you hear is I need to do 2 sets of hack squat until that machine quits or my legs do.
Yeah.
And then when you say, hey, Chris, I did 1 because the back all was unneeded, I'm like, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Or if you said, I did a 3rd one because I didn't have Zach to spot me, I had somebody random and he took 2 of my reps away. Okay, got it. I know why you did an extra one.
Yeah.
Okay, we're good. Like, and again, that comes down back to what we originally started this section with, was client custom modification and understanding the athlete and the person you're working with. Because there's some people who, as you say, I literally throw like a life jacket to you in the ocean. And there's other people where I throw them in with a damn weight tied around their ankle.
Yep.
And these aren't the same client. Like, hey, Dave, here's a life jacket so you don't go to the bottom of the ocean floor and can't get back up. And the other ones, I'm like, he already has 7 life jackets on, and I need to drag him down to the water.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not even wet yet.
Just floating like fucking Jesus. Yes.
Yeah.
So again, that's I put that baby to bed. All right, now next, the thing I was really thinking about this week was, I know you and I've had this conversation before, but I've had highly genetic gifted athletes that I've worked with that make me feel like I'm an absolute genius, right? Like, I'm like, man, I've cracked the code of bodybuilding. I know all the answers. Everything we do works. And a lot of times when I say genetics, and I want to be specific here, I'm either speaking about the people who are genetically superior from a shape, condition, like they're elite of elite. Anyone that you see on the Olympia stage in the top 10, it's those people that I'm referring to. Now, on the same on the other side of that coin, I feel like there's also genetically gifted people like you who your brain makes you that, so that when I program hard work sets, you grow from it. Because I know
Yeah.
you did those work sets properly. When I tell you to eat 8 ounces of chicken and 225 grams of rice, I know that's what went into your mouth to the gram.
Yeah.
If I say, hey, like cut out artificial sweeteners, you're like done. If I said, I need you to walk 13 miles backwards today, okay, cool. It wasn't 20, 25 miles. It also wasn't 12 and a half miles. It was 13. Like
Yeah.
it's those things. So when I speak about genetics, I think about bodybuilding in those two sectors. When this group of genetically, physically superior athletes have your brain, that's when you have Phil Heath or Ronnie Coleman. Like
Yeah.
that's what you see there. Dorian Yates, that's what you see.
Yeah.
No one wants to
There's a
admit that.
lot of really good genetically gifted people who waltz their way through the NPC and then get smoked at the professional league and they stop competing because they're sad about it.
Yes.
You
Yep.
know, that was the first time they've ever gotten, their, card handed to them. They're not used to losing.
Yep.
Versus like you take someone like exactly like Ronnie Coleman, who was very used to losing, right? I mean, his first Olympia, he took dead last. He didn't place,
Right.
and worked his way up and then figured out some things along the way and just became a monster,
Yep.
you
Yep.
know, from sheer work ethic too. Like that's like the fun thing with genetics. People laugh at like, oh, you have good genetics. It's like those people are also doing the work.
Yep.
Like if you look at Phil Heath, like yes, he probably has some of the best genetics on the planet. But like go watch him talk about his food like in old videos. Like he was eating exactly what he needed to.
Yes.
Like to the gram, weighed out fucking fish and sweet potato.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
He wasn't eating RX bars and cotton candy. He wasn't hitting his macros.
No.
He honestly just ate what he was told and trained as he was told.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I've seen countless videos, Hony talking about how coachable he was. And
Yeah.
when you think about that, when you take an athlete with those genetics, that pedigree of winning, and you listen to his coach say, even for his last Olympia, he was the most coachable athlete he's ever worked with, like that is wild because he's now successful. He's super wealthy. He's literally known everywhere, and he's still listening to someone and taking coaching. That's a rare combo.
Yeah. Yeah. So many people are going to get, well, it's wild to me how many people will tell me like when they're working with me, they're like, well, I usually do this. It's like, well, how's that working out for you? Because that's why you're here, is because it's not working out for you. I usually do this is a great place to stay the same.
Right. Yeah.
If I told you, oh, I usually do instead of cardio, I just do air kicks in yoga. It's like, all right, cool. That's probably why we're not getting progress with the cardio I give you. It's like we're gonna have to change that to make change. You have to make change.
Right. Agreed.
You
Agreed.
can't expect to do the same thing and make change. That's the definition of insanity.
The only time I would ever heed that information is if you have like a very good body part, or let's say you're a guy who has always been like nasty peeled, but you've missed the fullness portion of it.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
said to me something like, Chris, like I know if I do the stairs, I always get in shape. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
If as long as I don't take, as long as I get some Clen and T3 in me and take GH, I'm always in shape. Okay, that's good information, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Or let's say if you ask me specifically like, oh Chris, what have you been doing for shoulders? And I tell you, okay, let's keep with that. It's working. But if I
Yeah.
need,
It's the opposite side of things. Like, well, they have shitty shoulders, like, and they're like, well, I usually do this. And it's like,
won't matter.
well, that makes no fucking sense.
Right. It hasn't worked to you to this point. Why are you going to keep beating that hammer? Right? Like, yeah, that genetic piece and coaching piece is so huge because many people get very much stuck in their dogmatic ways and they seek out other coaches that believe things that they already do. And I've always thought with coaching, like you hire someone who, yes, they fit under the same umbrella as you, but they're going to push you to do things that make you uncomfortable, right? Like
Yeah.
I'll give this example of Matt Porter. I've said it before. Like had never done hit cardio in a prep ever. He introduced me to it. I fucking hated it in the moment because it was so damn hard, but it worked.
Yep.
And when I went into it, I would know like, okay, today I have 12 rounds or 15 rounds or 20 rounds. And I just treated it one set at a time and made it miserable. And that way, when I reported to him cardio 100 of 100 or 100%, that meant that every round of every hit session was done to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
And I didn't
That's
say,
well, another thing too. Like that drives me up a wall. It's the 100% aspect done, right? You have to really believe that too. Like going and there's a difference between doing your cardio and actually doing your cardio.
yes, yep,
Like the amount of times I see people who are like, "Oh, I have to do 3 hours of cardio for prep," and you see them on the treadmill, they're reading a fucking book, walking at a 1.2 speed. It's like, no, you don't.
right.
You could probably do 30 minutes like 4 times a week if you actually let's see what like the 10 incline and 4 speed does. No holding hands, just
Yeah,
busting ass looks like for half an hour.
right.
You know, it's like the same thing. It's like, oh, I trained my face off, but you leave the gym, you're not even sweaty. It's like one of these doesn't match up. What you're saying doesn't match your outcome here.
Yeah,
You know, same thing with cardio. Like I know every time you've ever programmed me to hit, there was a period we had in the off season when I had 2 hit sessions a week, and I would dry heave twice a week in the fucking parking lot. You know, after each one of those sessions, and it was like, okay, cool, we're pushing my body. I know that.
right. Yeah,
You know, it's I'm not getting down. I'm like, oh, this is great. You know, like yeah, you get some cool endorphins from it, but it should fucking suck.
yeah. If I ever program hit for anyone and they tell me hit was okay or not that bad, I know.
Yeah,
I'll give you an example. I had a bikini client who the back of her legs and ass just never got in shape. Okay.
yeah,
And she hadn't worked with me before. And she came to me. I knew there was a training piece. I know there was a diet piece, but I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to have her do a lot of prowler work for her cardio. And
yeah,
at my old gym, we had a strip of like parking lot that no one drove on. It was like 40 yards. And I had my prowler out there. And so I would have my clients and athletes go back there and use it for some of their cardio if it was programmed in there. She came back inside and it was like the middle of June here. She wasn't very sweaty. And she goes, Chris, like, that was really fun. And I said, oh, it was hard, right? She's like, oh, no, it wasn't that bad at all. And I said, when are you going to be back in here to do your cardio tomorrow? And she was like, 2 o'clock. I was like, okay, cool. I'll meet you out there. And I did what I always do with people. I was like, can you just show me what you did yesterday? Just do one round of it. I want to see it. Okay, cool. She did. I was like, okay, great. That's your warm up. That doesn't count. She did 2 more sets with me and was throwing up in the trash can. Or
yeah,
sorry, the dumpster that's back there. And she's like, that's miserable. I'm like, that's what I expect every time. Enjoy the rest of your cardio.
yeah.
Walked away.
Exactly. I've done the same thing. I've legitimately like I've had people on a spin bike, and I'm just like, okay, cool. We'll start with the low round, 45 seconds,
Right,
and when this bell goes off, I want 15 seconds all out. I'll
right,
watch them do 2,
right.
and they're fucked. It's like you've been telling me you've been doing 10 rounds of this and been hokey dory.
Right. Yeah. And they get off there like, I don't understand. Like, well, what do you mean you don't understand? That's exactly how every round should look of hit. It's horrible. It should be miserable.
You should be questioning your life choices at the end of that hit session.
That bike, for me, I'm sure the same way with you, that bike shakes and shit. And it's like, yeah, you like, because what I try to do, I'll keep my head down and then I'll look at the timer and keep my head down. And it's like, okay, cool. Like if I can get to through 10 seconds of that shit without looking up and I look at like 5 seconds, that's it. I just gotta go as hard as I can for 5 more seconds. Like that's how I kind of look at it. And I just think so many people don't look at it that way. It's like, no, it should be hit cardio should be miserable. Um, if you do it right. So, anyways, back to the question I had for you and to present to the audience here is like, so the genetically elite people make me think that I'm really smart and I'm onto something. And on the flip side, the clients who are what I will call really poor executors of the plan make me feel like I'm an absolute moron and need to quit this job immediately. And that is usually coupled with that what we just talked about is they report 100% compliance, but you and I both know it wasn't done to the best of their ability. Because, and I'll give you an example. Let's say I cut your carbs by 100, increase your cardio above 5 minutes, and I tell you to like really pick up the intensity of your work sets, which I know is can be arbitrary to say, but let's just use that as an example. If you come back to me and your body hasn't changed in a week, I know something's wrong. Like,
Yeah.
because if I do, if I take someone with poor genetics and I give them that same scenario, they're gonna get change.
Yep.
And I've had multiple clients like I'm beating my head against the wall, like I decrease food, I increase cardio. They're not fatigued. They tell me their stress is low. They tell me they're sleeping well. I'm doing every work set. So then cool. Okay, we add in Clen and T3. Nothing happens. Okay, cool. Like we do everything that would typically give me a response and I get nothing. And it's like, huh, why is it why are you 8 weeks out and your skin still looks like it's well skin? This shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
And it's very frustrating from a coaching perspective because you're like, fuck, like I'm trying everything. Nothing is giving me response. For positive or at this point, I don't even care if it's positive or negative response. Like I'm almost trying to drive you to a point where something negative happens. I'm like, hey, cool, like something's happening. And I mean, I'm sure you've been there with clients. Like, how do you handle that psychologically?
I mean, sometimes getting after finding like finding details what can get worked on. Having a come to Jesus moment too, especially if they're a competitor.
Yes.
Like we have 113 days to get better than this.
Right.
You
Yep.
want to show up on stage looking like a bag of fucking spilled milk.
Right. Yep.
Like we need to have some actual things happen here. So I've also had it like, okay, cool, you're not progressing. Go get blood work.
Yes.
Let's see what's actually happening. Then I'll follow this stuff. They're like, oh shit, let's start following the plan now.
Right. Yep. That's always a great. Then I have them start sending me work sets.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, how much room for improvement is there? Or, I've always been leery of this too, right? Like when a camera's on someone, some individual will go hard.
Yeah.
And what I'll say with that is if you give me a good work set, I'm like, okay, cool. Like that's how all 13 for back day should look. Like every one of those, I need you to match that intensity. And then that tends to sometimes like flip a switch. I was like, oh shit, like maybe I am leaving stuff in the tank. And then, I usually tend to start just hammering people with lots of questions. Like, what do you put on your food? Where are you buying your food? Are you measuring everything? Are you subbing foods? Like, and you try to eliminate variables because there's always telltale signs of non-plan compliance. It's not always just lack of results, but as a whole, if you aren't progressing with me, and maybe this sounds really arrogant of me at this point, but it's just the truth. If you aren't progressing with me, either more muscle or improving body parts, or you're not burning through body fat, I tend to believe it's the person.
Yeah.
Like we aren't connecting somewhere with my expectations and your effort. And we have to get closer or you're not gonna achieve results. And a really cool way to assess that is by looking at true percentage compliance. And if I have a client, I'll say, cool, like send me your food log, and then we break down your calories that you're eating in a day. If that doesn't even sniff what you're reporting compliance wise, that's a reason.
Yeah.
And then you start saying, well, Chris, like I had this come up on Saturday and Sunday, and then I slept in, and then you start running into more then like it's like the floodgates open, they start admitting everything to you. And it's like, okay, we almost need to program reset this shit. On Monday, I need you to follow everything on your plan. And if you can't because of work, life, etc., you have to give me these objections, and then I will create a plan around it.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times, like, I can't remember who told me this advice, but they said, Chris, like, sometimes maybe it was Angela. I can't remember. Maybe I was just telling her, but I can't remember. Like the reason that people don't always come to you and tell the truth is they're scared to disappoint you. And I'm like, that's why you're paying me. Like, I'm here to problem solve. And if something in your plan doesn't work out, like I had a guy once who was driving 2 hours to get ground turkey that was 99% lean. And I was like, bro,
Yeah, just tell me. Like, we can eat chicken.
chicken, fish, shrimp, tuna, like egg whites. Stop
Yeah.
wasting 4 hours of your day to go get ground turkey at a grocery store. I'm telling you, it's not that important.
Or sometimes on the opposite side of the spectrum, people just get lazy.
Yeah.
Like I had a dude who was like, I found out all like he switched over to the Uncle Ben's rice, the ones with like added fats in them.
Yes.
Uh, because he was just like, I just don't like cooking rice. I was like, do you have a fucking rice cooker? Because each one of those bags has 16 grams of fat in it.
Right. Yeah. And
You know, if
I'm
you eat
sure
just
that,
one of them, that's an extra 160 calories. Cool. That's your cardio session.
yeah. And when you say that, like, do you have a rice cooker? A lot of times those people are like, no, what's that? It's
Yeah.
probably expensive, right? No, it's 20 fucking dollars at Walmart.
Yeah.
It is the greatest invention for a bodybuilder ever. It is easy as shit. You measure the rice, you rinse the rice, you hit start.
Yeah.
In 30 to an hour, it's done. And you have rice for your whole day. Like, yeah, like I always try to think of 99 times out of 100, you and I have problem solved this with multiple people. Just tell us. If you tell us, we can fix it. If we can fix it, we can make your life a lot easier. And suddenly this bodybuilding stuff starts to get way simpler.
Yeah.
And I think like that's what people miss if they don't spend time with you and I, or they may not like understand how we have bodybuilding built around our life to where it's cohesive and it's not a roadblock. Where I think a lot of people, they run into this like, well, bodybuilding doesn't work for my family life or my work life, or I'm like, bro, like we can make bodybuilding fit. It's just gonna take some effort and getting used to.
Yeah. You just have to like. It's so funny because like it makes me laugh when people are like, I can't eat at work, and they work at like an office. It's like you can't go take a gander at your fucking secretary's candy dish and realize everybody's fucking eating all the time here.
Right. Yep.
You having a Tupperware with chicken and rice at 10 a.m. is not going to hurt anybody's feelings.
Nope.
You know, you're just wondering, you're just not doing it because you're wondering about yourself. You're self-conscious about the effort you're making towards your goals.
Yep. I've
Just
told this story
turn that
multiple times.
off.
Yeah, I've told this story multiple times. When I was young in my life as a trainer, I was so obsessed with making the most amount of money because I wanted to build my life to where I didn't have to stress about money, right? I had a chicken in a Ziploc bag in my left pocket, and my right pocket was a potato with the skin on it, and it's measured. And I ate that bitch north to south. And I trained people and ate bite of chicken, bite of potato, and it was bam, bam, bam until the food was over. It probably took me 30 minutes to eat that because I was having to talk to the client between sessions. Where if I sit down and ate, it'd probably taken me 10 to 15 minutes. But
Yep.
I wasn't willing to lose $60 for that training session to sit in the break room and eat. I was like, fuck it. I'll eat it on the go. I don't care.
Yeah.
If I had an office job and let's say my boss said, Chris, you can't eat at your desk. Okay, cool. I'm gonna go get my Tupperware. I'm gonna put that bitch in my pocket. I'm gonna sit on the toilet with my pants up, act like I'm taking a shit and eat my meal.
Yeah.
You can't tell me I can't use the bathroom, bro.
Well, and it's funny too. It's like, yeah, if your work performance suffers, they're going to get after you. But like, chances are, it's not.
Yes.
And if you're letting your work stuff performance suffer, like, you need to really evaluate what you're doing. Like, we're talking about a meal here. We're not talking about going off and like hiring a hooker midday. You know,
Right.
like it is not hard to stay on task with a fucking chicken and rice meal.
No. I mean, and even if you had to pre-blend a shake of whey, isolate, oats, peanut butter, and a piece of fruit, have it pre-blended, you literally pull it out of your like a ISO bag or whatever you use, chug it at your desk while working. I can do that twice a day.
Yeah.
And then everyone has to have a lunch break, even if it's 10 minutes. Like, I think legally you're required to have one. So you eat breakfast before you go, 2 shakes, lunch, and then all you have to do is really figure out your pre-lift meal if you train after work.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you have to do. And honestly, I could eat. I would honestly sit the last 20 minutes of my work, even if it meant I had to get there 20 minutes early, and eat at my desk, eat that pre-lift meal. I'd finish up whatever task I had to do, and then I'd drive to the gym, drink my pre-workout, and then train. And then you eat your post-lift meal, go to sleep. Like,
Yeah.
I just gave you 6 meals. That's easy as shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that to me always comes down to desire and want to, um, as opposed to a roadblock. Like,
Very true. Very true.
the other scenario, and listen, I've worked this, like they're like, oh, Chris, it's hot as hell outside and I'm not hungry. Guess what? If you work hard enough in the sun, you will be hungry. And if you aren't, you got to shovel that food in until the day when you wake up and you're like, oh man, I'm hungry. I can eat in the heat.
Yeah.
I get it. It's definitely less conducive to go throw mulch all day or do gravel work or roofing or the fucking decking, whatever you do. You'll be hungry if you work hard enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that because my brother and I just redid our deck and I was ravenous all day.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It was 98 degrees. I still took a break and came in and ate my fucking meal while he worked, and then we just literally switched places.
Yep.
Simple as that. All right, I think we've ranted and raved enough for today. There are your takeaways. Find a way to get done in bodybuilding. Like with anything in life, if you care about it enough and you have enough passion, you'll make it work. Like,
Yep. And if not, you'll make an excuse.
yes. I always go back to this. Really good single moms will work 2 jobs to take care of their kids, and their kids will never wonder that their mom loves them.
Yeah.
Or you have the deadbeat mom who isn't ever there, who's checked out, and their kids know that they're a piece of shit. It's the same difference. The same day thing. I chose moms. It could be dads. It doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah.
there's good employees and there's shitty employees. And just like with coaching, there's good coaches and bad coaches. But also, something that I really urge you all to think out there is the next time you see an athlete like go up on stage not in shape, don't just think it was the coach's fault. That's a whole side rant and tangent that I could probably go on for the next hour about. Because in this world, I really believe a lot of athletes just hire a coach to blame all their losses on.
Yep.
Where you and I both know that if it's a good, reputable coach, 99 times out of 100, it was poor execution.
Yep.
And they listened to too many of their friends, they took too much diuretic, or they took it at all, or they didn't pull back water, or they didn't do all their cardio. So yeah.
Or they took parts of the plan and did parts of the plan. So like, I ate meals 1 through 3 on what my coach gave me, and then 4, 5, and 6 I did my own thing. But it's 100% my coach's fault because I look like shit.
Right. Yes. You got to blame him. It's all his fault. He's a moron. Despite if you scroll his page, all of his athletes are in shape. I think about the amount of times I've missed someone's peak who followed the plan, you can count on one hand.
Right.
Fun fact. And it goes back to what you and I will always say. If you're in shape and all the fat's off, you can pretty much get away with anything.
Yeah.
So enjoy the little fun nugget and sit on that, stew on it. If you've never been in shape before, it's time to man or woman up and look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself why. There's a great Lil Wayne song called Mirror Mirror. I want you to watch it and listen to it. That'll give you the answers.
Yeah.
The person that controls your destiny is staring right back at you.
Very true.
All right, guys. Until next time, Chris, Dave, we are done.